Hello viewer, thank you so much for tuning in to Elimu TV, where you continue to watch and learn. This is a business lesson, and if you have any question, or maybe you want to give us any of your comments, you can do so through our SMS number 22518, our Facebook page Elimu TV, or even you can also tweet to us. Our Twitter handle is Elimu_KE. So today we shall be looking at the stock exchange market. I want to remind you, earlier on we were looking at the types of companies, and we're saying that we have public companies and private companies. We said that public companies usually invite the public to come and buy shares from them. And that one is usually done through the stock exchange market. So that's what we shall be looking at today. But before that, we are going to start by reviewing the assignment that I left you to tackle during our last lesson. Question number 1, you are supposed to give the differences between public limited companies and private limited companies. You're supposed to distinguish the two. So I would expect you would have said the following points. Number 1, you'd say that a public limited company is formed by a minimum of 7 shareholders and no set maximum. So if shareholders are 7, they can start a public limited companies and there is no set maximum. While private limited companies, it is formed by between 2 and 50 shareholders. It is formed by between 2 and 50 shareholders. So if shareholders are more than 50, they cannot form a private limited company. So they have to be either between 2 to 50 shareholders. The other example is that public limited companies advertises their shares to the public. That is, a public limited companies advertises its shares to the public. So what happens is that public limited companies welcome the public to come and subscribe for their shares, regardless of their background. So anyone is free to go and buy shares from a public limited company. On the other hand, a private limited company does not advertise its shares to the public. Instead, they sell them privately to specific people. So private limited companies does not advertise its shares, therefore not anyone can go and buy shares from them. Instead, their shares are sold to private people, specific private people. The other difference would be that public limited companies does not restrict transfer of shares from one person to another. So we say that shares and debentures in a public limited company are freely transferable from one person to another. So a shareholder can easily sell the shares to a fellow shareholder without consulting other shareholders or without getting any permission from the company. But for a private limited company, you find that transfer of shares is restricted. Transfer of shares is restricted, and therefore shareholders cannot transfer their shares before they get permission from fellow shareholders. The other difference is that public limited companies are managed by a board of directors. Public limited companies are managed by a board of directors, while a private limited company are managed by either 1 or 2 directors. Private limited companies are managed by 1 or 2 directors, depending on the size. If a private company is just small, 1 director can manage. If it's a big company, a big private limited company, then 2 directors are the ones that can manage the company. There is also another difference whereby for a public limited company cannot commence its operations until it is issued with a certificate of trading. Public limited company cannot commence its operation until it is issued with what we call the certificate of trading. And remember, a certificate of trading is issued after the certificate of incorporation, while private limited company can commence its operation upon receiving the certificate of incorporation. So I expect that's what you said, and for the points that you never included, you can add that what you have already discussed. Let's now look at the specific objectives for this lesson, and make sure that by the end of the lesson you are able to 1. Define what is the stock exchange market. Define what is the stock exchange market. 2. You should be able to explain the role of the stock exchange market as a market for securities. Securities are simply shares. Securities are simply shares. And remember, when you are discussing about the companies, we said that the main source of capital for companies is the sale of shares. So this sale of shares usually takes place at the stock exchange market. And in our country here in Kenya, we only have one stock exchange market, that is the Nairobi Stock Exchange market. So let's now look at what is the stock exchange market. And this refers to groups of shares in a public limited company. The stock exchange market is the market where shares of quoted companies are exchanged through buying and selling. That is, the stock exchange market is the place where shares of quoted companies are exchanged through buying and selling. I want to remind you what we mean by a quoted company. When you are discussing about a public limited company, we mentioned this term, quoted company. And when we say that a company has been quoted, we mean that it is a member of the stock exchange market, or the name of the company is listed with the stock exchange market, and therefore it can trade its shares in the stock exchange market. In Kenya, companies that are quoted are listed by the Nairobi Stock Exchange market, and therefore the sale of shares, that is buying and selling of the company's share, take place at the Nairobi Stock Exchange market. It is important to note that companies that are not quoted or that has not been listed with the stock exchange market don't trade their shares in a stock exchange market. So for a company to trade its shares in the stock exchange market, it has to be quoted. And also, once again, in Kenya, shares are traded at the Nairobi Stock Exchange market. Now, before we look at the role played by the stock exchange market, I want us to look at some of the terms that maybe you've ever come across and you understood, or the terms that you are likely to come across as far as sale of shares and debentures is concerned. These terms include the following. 1, you have talked of a quoted company. And a quoted company is a company that has been registered or listed as a member of the stock exchange market. Remember that if a company has not been listed with the stock exchange market, it cannot trade its shares in the market. The other term maybe you've ever come across is securities. And the term security simply means shares. It simply means shares. And do you remember what I told you shares are? Shares are just a small unit of capital. Shares are a small unit of capital. The other term is the IPO, or what is referred to as the initial public offer. So IPO is the abbreviation of the initial public offer. This refers to situations in which a company has floated new shares for public subscription. It refers to situations in which a company has floated new shares for public subscription. So you have an existing company, and then it actually creates some shares, new shares that are meant to be that are advertised. Then the public comes to subscribe for them. Such shares are what we call the initial public offer. And we continue with the terms. The other term is the primary market. Primary market, and primary market is where new shares are issued, or what we are calling the IPO. This is where new shares are issued. We also have secondary market, and the secondary market deals with second-hand shares. Second-hand shares is where you have transfer of shares between shareholders or organizations. This is where you have transfer of shares. So the shares were existing earlier on, only that they are going to change ownership. They are going to be transferred to a new owner or to a new person. So where such exchange takes place is where you refer to as the secondary market. It's also important you note that both markets, that is primary and secondary market, are accommodated by the stock exchange market. So the stock exchange market it facilitates both primary and secondary share deals. So if today you are to go and subscribe some shares from any company of your choice, you go to the Nairobi Stock Exchange Market, and there you'll be able to find both markets, that is the primary market as well as the secondary market. Earlier on, we said that the Nairobi Stock Exchange Market is a market for shares or securities, plays a number of roles. So up next, I want us to look at the role of the stock exchange as a market for securities. What role does the stock exchange market play as a market for securities? Number one, it facilitates buying of shares. It facilitates buying of shares, and find that the stock exchange market provides a conducive environment to investors wanting to buy shares in various companies. So you don't have to go to individual companies requesting or asking whether can you sell some shares to me or something of the sort. No, you just need to go to the stock exchange market, and therefore you'll find shares that are being sold by the various companies. The other role of the stock exchange market is that it facilitates the selling of shares, and you find that it creates a ready market for those who wish to sell their securities. So if it is a company that feels like selling its securities, it doesn't have to go around looking for customers. So it just goes to the stock exchange market and lists its securities there. Then consumers or investors know where to go. So they actually meet there. So the company with its securities and the investors who want to purchase or to subscribe the shares. So they meet there. So that's why we are saying the stock exchange market facilitates selling of shares. The other role played by the stock exchange market is that it provides useful information. It provides useful information, and this one means that it provides timely, accurate, and reliable information to investors, and this enables investors to make decisions on the investments to make. Such information is usually done through either the media or what we call the stock brokers. Note that investors who may want to subscribe some shares of a given company cannot do that directly. They subscribe the shares through these people we call the stock brokers. No, we are saying that the stock exchange market provides useful information that is on time, accurate and reliable information to investors. So you find that the stock exchange market usually advertises the shares. It advertises the shares through the various media that we have, like Facebook, we have televisions, radios, so and as well as the stock brokers. So the investors are able to know that some shares are being sold by a given company. The other role is that it is safeguarding investors' interests. Safeguarding investors' interests. And you find that companies that want to be quoted or that want to be listed in the stock exchange market has to attain some required standards of performance. So you find that a company that is not performing well may not be listed with the stock exchange market, because remember, whoever is subscribing for the shares may not want to risk his money or her money. So the Nairobi Stock Exchange market has to make sure that the quoted company's performance is okay, and therefore you also find that even the already quoted company's performance is closely monitored by the Nairobi Stock Exchange market. So actually you find that people will not, or investors will not want to invest their money in a company that is not performing well. Therefore, it is the Nairobi Stock Exchange market has to make sure that the company that is getting to be listed with them is a company that performs well. The other role of the Nairobi Stock Exchange market is the creation of employment. And you'll find that if you visit like the Nairobi Stock Exchange market, you'll find people there who are working, who are listing the companies, and those who are looking for people to subscribe for their securities. So such people is like brokers and their agents, they facilitate the buying and selling of securities. So that facilitation, they are working and they are paid for that. They get some income as a result of their facilitation of the buying and selling of securities of companies. So they earn out of that. The other role of the stock exchange market is that it assists companies to raise capital. It assists companies to raise capital, and find that as we had discussed earlier on when we were discussing about companies, we said that the main source of capital for companies is the sale of shares. So Nairobi stock exchange markets assists companies to raise capital by creating that environment through which such companies issue new shares to members of the public. So a company can issue new shares, what we are calling the IPO, to the public, and as a result get to earn more income or more capital, that is in form of the other role of the stock exchange market is that it promotes the culture of saving. It promotes the culture of saving, and this one means that you find that investors may have some excess money in their accounts, which is just lying idle, and instead of just keeping money just like that, they subscribe for securities. They subscribe for securities. Therefore, their excess cash is channeled towards that. Their excess cash is channeled towards that. So we say that it provides investors with opportunities to channel their excess funds. When we talk of channeling, it is like directing their money towards a different cause, like now the one we are talking of subscribing for securities. The other role is the fixing of prices. Usually out there, the price is determined by the market forces. That is the demand and the supply. Now, when it comes to the price of shares and debentures, the stock exchange market is in a position to determine the equilibrium price, or the true market value, or the true market price of the securities, which is very important to both the buyers and sellers. So depending on the demand, depending on how the investors are demanding for the shares, and also depending on how many shares the companies are offering to be subscribed, that one is able to determine, that is, the stock exchange market is able to determine the equilibrium price. We continue with the rules of the stock exchange market, and the other one is that it avails variety of securities, a very variety of securities. Now, in stock exchange market, for example, the companies that we have here in do risks with the Nairobi stock. Now, for investor who may want to buy some shares, subscribe some shares of a company, when an investor avails himself or herself there, she is able to choose various. For instance, we visited the stock exchange market. You'll find shares from Safari, Coca-Cola, Equity Bank, Cooperative Bank, and so they're able to make a choice or to choose which company to in, and this usually satisfies different investors. It's very important because needs of different investors. And the last role of the stock exchange market is raising of revenue for the government. It helps the government to raise revenue. So the government usually earns some income by collecting fees and other dues carried out in the stock exchange market. You should understand that you cannot carry out any business in any country without paying for that. You have to pay tax, you have to pay license fee, you have to pay rent and rates and all that. And this one, all these fees goes to the government. So as a result, the government is able to get some income. So that's why we are saying the other rule of the Nairobi and of the stock exchange market is to help the government to raise some revenue. Thank you so much for watching. That marks the end of our lesson, but I'm going to review with some assignment. We are going to review it during our next. Number 1, the following term. Number 1, security. Number 2, company. Number 3, the last 3, the stock market. So defines. The question is 5 rules of the stock exchange as a market for securities. If you just follow the rules, you have around 8 of them. Outline any 5 rules of the stock exchange securities. This quote for today says that opportunity does not knock the door. If opportunity does not knock the door, keep it where we continue to reward.